All right, so I am back and I had a wonderful weekend at the World's Fair Nano, a really cool tech event that took place out in Brooklyn that showcased a lot of the latest technologies in AR, VR, gaming, drones, all sorts of cool stuff, electric skateboards. I even ate some granola-fied crickets, which is really interesting. They're really tasty. They're actually extremely nutritious and full of protein and so on. So that was fun. But yeah, I took a little bit of a break to collect my thoughts and do some writing. I'm working on subverse.net quite a lot. We're getting very, very close to launching that. So, World's Fair Nano. So the history of it goes quite far back. One of the more prominent World's Fair events was in 1964 here in New York City. It was out in Queens. You may recognize this big globe. One thing that was really cool about it was the bringing back of the sentiment of these new technologies, where instead of taking it for granted, we should really showcase it and bring to light that some of these things are truly incredible. At the 1964 World's Fair here in New York City, some of the bigger companies showcasing their technologies were IBM, Ford, General Motors, and so on. A lot of prominent figures of that time, both political and just economic innovators, inventors. I was able to test out some of the latest in VR technology, like the Oculus Rift, the HTC Vive, both really, really cool in their own respects. And I was also able to test out some really cool electronic skateboards that have a remote. And I was, as a longtime longboarder, I've been longboarding for 15 years, I've done some races and stuff, it's a lot of fun. I was pleasantly surprised because actually before that, before I even tried one, and that was the first time, I would actually see people with the electronic skateboards and I would kind of scoff at them. I would kind of, I would look at them and I'd say, hey man, use your legs. But I was actually pleasantly surprised, and there's a company called Mellow Boards, which I thought was awesome. One thing that separates them from some of the other electronic skateboard companies is that you can actually take the wheels and the battery and put them on any other deck, any other skateboard, essentially. But those guys are based out of Germany. Definitely check out their website. I believe it's mellowboards.com. I'll put the link in the description below. Another part that I really enjoyed about the World's Fair were some of the speakers that were speaking on a stage about a block away from the actual the Brooklyn Expo Center where the technology was being showcased. So they had another warehouse, huge, really cool warehouse, where they had multiple speakers, including Tim Kaine and some other prominent names. A few of the speakers that I personally found really, really entertaining and interesting and fascinating were Eric Ladzinski, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's the co-founder and chief scientist at D-Wave, which is a quantum computing company. They make hardware and software, and they've partnered with companies like Google. Joel Salinas, who is a MD, who is an instructor at Harvard Medical School, he talked a lot about the brain, neuroscience, and some of the latest research done about the brain. And Joseph Lubin, who is a blockchain and cryptocurrency expert. He founded Consensus, which is a venture production studio that builds decentralized applications. I found these speakers to be particularly interesting because of the way that their expertise and their involvement in technology will be fused with AI and artificial general intelligence in the future. For example, quantum computing and D-Wave and the creation of the hardware necessary where a super intelligent AGI that can do 20,000 years of human-level intellectual work week after week after week may hold the key to the future. This stuff could potentially launch tech-leading companies like the United States and China into a war and in a race, an arms race, into an arms race of quantum proportions. Joseph Salinas, neuroscientist at Harvard. When you hear about Elon Musk and what he's doing with Neuralink and the technology that D-Wave and some quantum computing might give us to literally map and turn us into cyborgs and map these technologies onto our brains and integrate them in something called the brain-computer interface, which would essentially give us the abilities of the Matrix in one way or another, not necessarily manipulating physics, but to be able to download something to your brain and know it almost instantly. Crazy stuff. All in all, it seems like we're approaching the future more rapidly than we thought. In fact, it kind of seems to me that With the revival of the World's Fair and the confluence of all of these great minds and leaders in technology, we may already be living in the futuristic world that so many great science fiction authors have written about, and we don't even know it. Anyway, I really want to hear your guys' thoughts. We're living in a crazy, crazy time, but leave a comment. I want to hear your thoughts on emerging technologies and how they may be integrated. And hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Donate if you can through paypal.me/Beacom of Light. Anything helps. I'm excited for the future. So that's going to do it for this video. Love you guys so much. Live long and prosper.